Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, it is I am the one and only Silver the Hedgehog here, and I am back for the likes of the Mexi Toys videos. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more Let's Play of Sonic X Shadow Generations, while we're still playing through the remastered version of Sonic Generations for the PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X/S, PC Steam, and finally the Nintendo Switch. And in addition to Nintendo Switch 2, all thanks to the forms of the backwards compatibility, so you might able to include that. So anyways, so last time we essentially did manage to win back into those a couple of stages again, presumably for the final time, to try to find the last few Chows. In addition to that, we also managed to win back into Planet Wisp Act 2 to try to get ourselves the final Red Star Ring. And in addition to that, we also did manage to take care of the forms of the boss battles again as a rematch, but in hard mode. And as a result, we did the 2 boss battles pretty well, apart from 4 or 3 of these. Well, to be more accurate though, we actually did pretty well on 3 boss battles on hard mode, but then as far as the other 3 though, that we come across into a soft locking moments, and in addition to that, we also did manage to have a lot of trial and error when it comes to Silver the Hedgehog and Egg Dragoon hard mode, but that's just how I can really think about it. So, today, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be entering into the final boss in Sonic Generations remastered version, and so much so we're about to be able to actually utilize all 7 of these Chaos Emeralds and able to actually build up the actual specific entrance to the final portal, which pretty much leads us to the final encounter in Sonic Generations, either the original or the remastered version, and so much so, collect the Chaos Emeralds to repair the gears. So, yeah, basically though, much like the original version of the game, you still need to actually insert one of the 7 Chaos Emeralds in 7 different gear parts in order to restore them, not just by the forms of restoring them, but it's also about the fact that it pretty much leads us to the final boss in the game. So, at least relatively speaking though, unlike the 3DS version, that you don't have to necessarily try to do this. Although, as far as I'm aware, this particular part is basically unchanged for the likes of the 360 version and the PlayStation 3 version, including the 2011 PC version. So, but I digress. So yeah, how's everyone else been? Well, let me tell you folks, it's been a very long while since we actually last uploaded something for the sake of time. But that's just mainly because, as you probably already know, that me and Blaze have suffered the forms of that stupid cold flu again. And so much so for the fact that I'm just getting sick and tired of the forms of getting cold flus at this point. Well, it's probably due to the weather, but regardless of such though, I'm almost a little bit better, but not exactly fully 100% recovery yet. But I digress. So as you can see, we somehow inserted all 7 of these Chaos Emeralds, so this means several of these flames with the final portal gate is about to activate, and so much so we can able to get into the final boss in Sonic Generations remastered version, which you probably already know what's to come, and that's what appears to be the Time Eater. And unfortunately though, it's about the fact that, well, at least the rest of the game is pretty much almost perfect. But, on the other hand though, I cannot say it applies with the forms of the final boss battle, which, as a result though, it's gonna be without a doubt as the worst final boss in any 3D Sonic game, even to this day, especially when it did originally came out in, 2011, so either way, wish me luck when it comes to doing with this final boss battle, so let's get to going.
You're cornered, so how about you just give up and restore the timeline like you found it?
You're not in a position to demand anything, you nasty little pincushion.
Eggman! No wonder!
He had a little help.
Dr. Robotnik?
Nobody calls me that anymore. If you would be so kind as to explain, gentleman genius Dr. Eggman from the future. It will be my pleasure, most excellent and efficacious Dr. Eggman of the past. After Sonic ruined my interstellar amusement park, I stumbled upon a dark primordial essence. I discovered it possessed abilities I've long desired to harness for myself. Namely, that it could travel through the dimension of time, so I decided to utilize its marvelous capabilities and rewrite the past. In order to perfect it, I needed the help of somebody as smart as I am. The only person that smart is me. Oh, you are too kind, my dear future self, and I was happy to help. And now all of time is ours, to do with as we please.
But the more your monster tears through the timeline, the more damage you do to it.
So, I'm going to erase that line and reshape it as I see fit. Huh? And they call me eccentric. No one will judge us anymore after we've destroyed these Sonics forever. Shall we begin then, Doctor? By all means, my dear Doctor.
Destroy me? In your dreams, Eggman. I beat you all the time by myself, and now there's two of me.
Then I'll have twice as much fun defeating you.
Keep moving!
Move all you want. I'm still going to squash you into a blue jelly. That was just to soften you up. Now it's time to meet your doom.
You're tougher than that. Come on!
Not you.
On your feet.
You're not beat yet.
Who are they? They are insignificant. You face worse, Sonic.
Focus your spirit.
We're right behind you. I believe in you, Mr. Sonic.
Embrace the emeralds!
Harness their power, Sonic.
You have to win, Sonic, like you've done time and again.
Time to scramble some Eggman, supersonic style.
Okay then, so let's get this thing to it. So, now, as far as I'm aware, yeah, the dialogue itself in this version of the game makes absolute no sense to me. Especially, it's almost concerning for the fact that, well, technically speaking though, it's about the fact you do realize about the fact that with Eggman's laugh, it's pretty much exactly the same as the original, but most of these voice lines have been re-recorded, so because of that though, yeah, I won't classify for saying that the voice actor sounds so much worse than he forms of how he does in the originals. But anyway, speaking of something it's usually unchanged for the likes of the original version compared to here, is that, well, obviously that was about the fact that we still ain't able to try to charge right into its core of the time meter, and as a result that was about the fact that it's even cool that you can able to actually take control of not only super modern Sonic, but as well as super classic Sonic as well, and every time whenever you press the corresponding button, usually the triangle button, or the Y button, or the X button on the Switch version, basically though you can able to switch between different perspectives within 2D or 3D perspective, so as a result though, that way you should able to avoid not only the forms of terrain, or to be more specifically, try to avoid a lot of obstacles, but also about the fact that you have to try to avoid the time meter's attacks. And yes, if you're probably wondering, yes, the hardest achievement is still present in this version. Like for instance, there's this achievement called Can't Touch This, where basically though, in order to able to achieve that particular achievement or trophy, basically though, you cannot afford to get hit by the forms of Time Eater's attacks. Well, luckily though, well, I've noticed something. If you accidentally do touch the forms of one of those levels, scenery kind of buildings or something, that does not count, by the way, as far as failing that particular challenge goes. The only time you will fail is that if you get hit by the homing shots alongside with the forms of these actual fisticuff hands. So, yeah, that's as far as I was expecting for this point. So, anyway, and unfortunately though, it's about the fact that the actual fight itself is still pretty much bad enough as it is. Like, you can still able to actually hear the most annoying dialogue in terms of this entire boss battle, which appears to be, that looks like the homing shots when it comes to Sonic's friends, and yeah, it still is pretty annoying as it is, especially it's almost concerning for the fact that, well, again, it's been 13 years since the original version of the game came out, for the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3, and PC versions as well. At least unlike the 3DS version, thankfully the 3DS version is actually a lot more enjoyable than the forms of how it does on the console version, but still, it can be rather irritating whenever you keep on hearing that exact same dialogue every single second, every time when the Time Eater decides able to shoot out the homing projectiles and all that stuff. I mean, it's just, you know, nothing really different from there. So, anyways though, so yeah, a few things I want to talk about is about the fact that, well, today's date, of course, here is the 27th of January today, in some cases in 2025 today, and conveniently enough though, is about the fact that we are pretty much almost nearly at the end of the first month in 2025, and as of course January, just before we realized about the fact that we've only got about approximately 5 days left until we're about to be approaching on to the second month already. That's what appears to be February. And once again, folks, I do apologize for the lack of uploading schedules for the sake of the forms of the recent times, but that's just mainly because, like I said before, I am so sick and tired of the forms of getting illness like so many times in the past. Especially, not only is it incredibly annoying, but it's also downright luck-based too, if you're not knowing what's to come. So anyway, so it may look like, oh, he's not basically down yet? Well, suffice to say though, is about the fact that luckily this entire boss battle does have 3 hit points, so yeah, we're Scout's able to avoid these homing shots, and as soon as when he does this particular animation pose, then we have to press the bumpers at the same time, combining our powers together, just like the forms of how it does it from the you know, the original version, except the fact that just like in Super Mario 3D All-Stars with specifically Super Mario Sunshine, the character no longer mentions the actual buttons they did say, depending on what version of the game you're playing on. So there we go, that pretty much does it for Time Eater, specifically normal mode, because like I said before, I'm about to be able to be up for the challenge by tackle through hard mode, so yes, I'm about to be able to accept that. But before we do that though, let's watch the ending.
Still warm. Time travel.
That's what I was talking about. I'll admit, you weren't half bad, Sonic.
Half bad? Are you kidding? He was all great. So, I have a question for you. Once we're home, you think the timeline will be restored? Yep. Just don't think about it too hard.
It was great teaming up with you, or me. Maybe this will fast-track you to learning some new tricks in the future. Wait, I mean, past. Ugh, time travel's a chore. Dude, sweet! And you're only gonna get better!
There's our portal home.
Hey, Sonic! Enjoy your future! It's gonna be great!
I just want to say, with that particular cutscene in mind, although it's basically exactly identical to the original, but there are a few issues I have with it. Like, for instance though, Classic Tales no longer mentions about the forms of this particular joke, about the forms of how to get all these gold rings and all that stuff. And second of all, I have no idea what the heck is happening to that particular scene where the fact that when myself, or in some cases Silver the Hedgehog, decides able to join in the crew, and I have no idea why, I did somehow manage to get myself a random chili dog from out of nowhere. And also another thing you might able to realize is that that particular scene involves around with Knuckles and Amy have been altered slightly, so as a result, unlike the original, where basically when Knuckles goes like, I will admit, you're not half bad, Sonic, and then Amy goes like, half bad? Are you kidding? It was all great. That in the original, that she shoved Knuckles into the tree, whilst in here now, it basically no longer becomes the case, because she did somehow no longer pushes Knuckles right into the tree this time. So, at least I'll give it some credit for it, because relatively speaking of that, it's hard for me to say honestly, because again, I apologize for that particular disappearance for that particular previous week, because, you know, I'm getting tired of the forms of getting illness up to this point, because, you know, it's not fun. And especially noticeable concerning for the fact that, well, at the very least though, we can able to actually discuss upon news and updates as soon as we're able to dive into the actual hard mode in Time Eater, although despite the fact that the entire battle itself on hard mode is pretty much exactly the same as normal mode, but it's actually going to get much more lengthier, so, and you see why as soon as we're able to dive into that, so. And I still really love the actual staff credits, by the way, in terms of Sonic Generations, because you can definitely see the actual in-game footage from the actual levels you've somehow experienced from the past Sonic games. Like, for instance, though, they've shown us the original footage of Green Hill Zone, Chemical Compliance Zone, Sky Century Zone, and as you can see, we're now on Speed Highway from Sonic Adventure. Now, I'm pretty sure the footage was actually based off from the Dreamcast version, just because you can definitely notice the Sonic's character model, because I'm almost assuming for the fact that they're trying to able to actually bring up the DX port, but that's not the case. So, at the very least, I do appreciate with that particular, you know, footage they somehow shown us here. In addition to that, when it comes to Sonic Adventure 2, I think this is actually more accurately based off from Sonic Adventure 2 battle footage, just because I can definitely notice there are some texture upgrades and stuff like that in Sonic Adventure 2 Battle for the GameCube, whilst unlike the Dreamcast version, well, it does have better lighting in some instances, especially noticeable with some cutscenes and stages, and yeah, you could definitely get the idea of what I was expecting to try to explain about the forms of that particular footage, as you can tell from that particular window display. So, and also I just realized about something is about the fact that the actual staff credits itself is basically unchanged, so as a result though, we might able to actually come across into, the voice cast line. Specifically though, we might still able to actually still see Kate Higgins as Tails, despite the fact on the remastered version of Sonic Generations, that basically though that Tails is now being voiced by the most current voice actor since in Sonic Boom franchise, all the way up to, you know, up to this point with Sonic the Hedgehog 3 movie. And also, speaking of which, in regards to the forms of Sonic the Hedgehog movie related things, well, it seems conveniently enough that we actually got ourselves a confirmed release date for the upcoming Sonic the Hedgehog 4. Not the forms of the episodic releases though, but just the actual film itself. And as far as I'm aware, it's still expected to be releasing until sometime in 2027, but it did somehow manage to able to date it on something, and as a result, it's going to be confirmed for the release date for the theater release of Sonic the Hedgehog 4 movie, and it's about to due out at some point in March 19th in 2027. So because of that though, that's going to be a long wait, especially it's almost like concerning for the fact that it's going to be roughly 2 years from now. And also, as far as I'm aware, what's even crazy about this is that I believe Sonic the Hedgehog 4 movie is expected to be releasing around the exact same month as the upcoming Godzilla kind of movie or something like that. Well, it's hard for me to say honestly, because again, hopefully though, until next week or the next couple of days or so, then we should be able to actually get back on track when it comes to uploading schedules alike, because kind of thinking about it though, it's basically just 2024 Part 2 when it comes to uploading schedules alike, but the only noticeable difference you might able to realize is about the fact that with all this daily uploading schedules has been changed still, which as a result you get the idea what I was expecting to mention about that. So yeah, I'm just really hoping that the next couple of days or weeks gets a little bit slightly better, but this is only the beginning of 2025, so that'll be the only gripe I have with this year so far. So anyway, also, as far as I'm aware, yes, there is no footage based off on the Wii or PS2 version of Sonic Unleashed, because as far as you can definitely tell, that this footage is obviously based off from the HD version of Sonic Unleashed for the Xbox 360/PlayStation 3, just because, you know, the daytime stages in that particular version is exhilarating, and it still managed to hold up even to this day. Especially that, gee, no wonder why a lot of Sonic fans out there was so desperately want to hear about the actual remastered version of Sonic Unleashed next for the next generation of consoles, specifically with PlayStation 5 or Xbox Series X/S, even with the potentially upcoming Nintendo Switch 2. So, but then again, we'll have to wait and see what happens in terms of new Sonic content will be on its way, and also as far as I'm aware, that there's going to be some more content is going to be coming for Sonic Dash, which not only we can able to expect to get ourselves the next playable character based off from Sonic the Hedgehog 3 movie, which I'm probably not going to get into any further details up to this point, although despite the fact that ever since around 6 days ago, that for those of you who lived in America, Sonic the Hedgehog 3 movie has been recently released digitally for streaming services, at least as far as I know about that, but as far as I'm aware though, it still hasn't been confirmed the actual release date for the DVD and Blu-ray release just yet, but I'm sure enough that we'll hear more about it probably at some point in spring. So anyways, also I just realized they no longer has a U letter on that particular Sonic Colors logo, which I know for a fact that unlike in my Wii, or actually kind of think about it, unlike my European version of Sonic Generations for the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360 version, it does manage to contain a U letter, but I suppose beggars can't be choosers, I guess. So either way, and as far as I'm aware, we can still able to actually hear this Happy Birthday Sonic thing, and as a result though, despite the fact that then again, this game did originally came out in 2011 to celebrate the 20th anniversary, so yeah, you get the idea for this point. So anyway.
Are you sure you saw a door over here? What? You were the one who said you saw a door over here? Well, I know it was one of us. Shut up and keep looking. What time is it? It's the exact same time as when you asked earlier, and it'll be the exact same time when you ask later. There is no time here! Let me just say that this was a brilliant plan that you came up with. Don't get too self-righteous. It'll be your plan pretty soon. I'm gonna dedicate the rest of my life to forgetting it. I heard that! Do we ever win? That depends on your definition of win. Beating Sonic. Oh, well then no. That doesn't give me much hope. Maybe I'll go back and get my teaching degree. That's not a bad idea. I've always enjoyed telling people what to do.
So yeah, every line in this cutscene plays out exactly the same, but the voice acting sounds so much worse. Like, why was the scene re-recorded? I mean, it's like, it's just... ugh, I didn't like that change. Well, usually relatively speaking, I was about the fact that, well, it's just all down to the forms of the actual writer change with all this Ian Flynn stuff. So anyway, so as you can tell, we somehow unlocked the next skill of ours, and that's what appears to be not only Supersonic, but as well as that, the Time Break skill has also been accessible. But in order to do that though, we need to be able to purchase that in the shop. So anyway, but I'll save that particular topic until specifically by tomorrow, because for now, let's go and deal with the Time Eater boss battle for the final time, but this time on hard mode, as well as a different background music, which, as you can tell, the music choice I have somehow chose, and that's what it appears to be, Knights of the Wind from the likes of Sonic and the Black Knight. So, because I'm almost assuming if I was gonna able to try to choose I Am All of Me, because as far as I'm aware though, that way we can able to fastly try to approach into the greatest highlight in terms of this particular Sonic X Shadow Generations game package, and as of course, Shadow Generations, but then again, we'll get to that folks, we are getting there, so hopefully the excitement should be a lot more expectations for this point. So, and also I do apologize for my commentary, it's a little bit slightly awkward sometimes, because then again, that I got myself my croaky throat still, which as a result though, yeah, it's just one of those things about the fact that every time, after a while, that our voice sounds a bit off. So, relatively speaking though, I'm still fine as it is, don't worry folks, but it's just that, you know, like I said before, I'm just getting sick and tired of the Fonzie illness thing. I'm sorry for the actual whole thing, it's just about ranting. Like, I just hate ranting, personally, but it's just about the fact that it's annoyingly consistent, you know? So, anyway, also, another thing I would like to mention about this is that recently I found out that Sonic X Shadow Generations has just announced that Sonic X Shadow Generations has sold over 2 million copies. So yeah, that's actually really good, especially concerning, I'm guessing it's likely across all of these different platforms or something like that, but I will say though, it's doing a lot more better than any forms of how it does and how sloppy the sales numbers for the likes of Sonic Superstars back in 2023, because relatively speaking when it comes to Sonic Superstars, it did came out the exactly same week as Super Mario Bros. Wonder, which, yeah, you get the idea for this point. So, in addition to that, we also expected to be able to have 3 new additional games have been added to the Nintendo Switch Online subscription services, which 3 of those games are basically the Super Nintendo games, so as a result we're about to be receiving Fatal Fury 2, Super Ninja Boy, and Satu Hakurin, I think is what it says anyway. I do apologize for that mispronunciation of that Japanese game title, by the way, because, well, straight to the point though is about the fact I just felt a bit, well, very, very gutted about the forms of how the uploading schedules turns out in terms of this whole year so far, which, again, we did have some high expectations about the forms of 2025 as far as the future parts itself comes, but it's just about the fact that there's that little annoying moments like this where the fact that if something goes horribly wrong, and other times though is about the fact that, well, you get the idea for this point, so... Oh jeez, the attacks is gonna get much more aggressive, but luckily though we've got plenty of rings to our disposal, so thankfully though we don't have to worry about trying to able to keep on wasting too many lives, I guess. I mean, I don't think it's possible for us to able to actually just try to go for that Kentucky achievement, but that's just mainly because in order to able to do that though, easily though, is by going on normal mode rather than hard mode, because hard mode will be quite of a challenge, so... but I digress. So, and as far as I'm aware, it's about the fact that there's going to be 2 additional characters that's going to be on its way, for not only with Sonic Dash, but alongside with Sonic Forces Mobile as well, and that's what it appears to be, Blossom Amy and Facet Blaze, I think is what it says anyway. So, relatively speaking, I was about the fact that I do have some pretty cool ways to able to actually go back on playing through Sonic Dash every once in a while. I mean, straight to the point though is about the fact that at this point in time that I unfortunately going back into Mario Kart Tour again, and so much so, despite the fact that the new Mario Kart game is going to be on its way for the Nintendo Switch 2, I'm not exactly sure if it's going to be like a cross-gen release or something, but then again, we'll have to wait and see what happens during at some point in April, so yeah, as a result, there's nothing else I can really talk about. I suppose there's another thing I want to discuss upon actually, is about the fact that we can able to actually notice there's actually a new look about the Fonzie Steelbook cover for Sonic the Hedgehog 3 movie for, let's just say, for the 4K UHD Blu-ray version, and when you try to take a look in the inside the case, it does manage to show this very cool artwork with not only with Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles on the left side, but as well as that, on the right side, it does feature not only Shadow the Hedgehog, as well as Dr. Eggman and General Robotnik. So, it kind of reminds me like a similar vibes as in a 4K UHD Blu-ray disc for the likes of Sonic the Hedgehog 2 movie back then, but except this time they've now added in 3 characters, like 3-on-3, as opposed to 2-on-2. So yeah, that's actually kind of an interesting change with that particular, you know, cover things you might able to see if you manage to open up the physical case or something. So anyways, I might as well skip the credits because, you know, you've already seen this before. So with that being said, folks, is that we get endings of this point right here. So join me next time for more Let's Play of Sonic Cross Shadow Generations or Sonic X Shadow Generations for Sonic Generations Remastered version, is that we're about to show off some extras before we move on to Shadow Generations. So as a result, we're about to show off Super Sonic and also some other bits and extras. So yeah, that's all I can really say about this, I guess. So yeah, I'll see you guys until tomorrow. Later, fellas.